Here's something worth sitting with. You finished the day. You did things, real things, things that mattered. And yet somewhere in the quiet at the end of it, there's that feeling again. The one that says it wasn't quite enough, that you could have done more, that you should have done more. And the strange part, it doesn't seem to matter how much you actually did. Psychology has a name for this. It's called the inadequacy gap, a persistent internal sense that your output never quite meets the standard your mind has set. And here's what makes it particularly exhausting. The standard moves. Every time you get closer, it shifts. Every time you achieve something, the baseline resets. So the finish line never actually arrives. It just relocates. This isn't laziness. It isn't ingratitude. It's a specific psychological pattern, and understanding it is the first step towards something different. The first reason you never feel like enough is that your measuring system is broken, not you, the system. Most people assess their effort using an internal benchmark, a mental image of what enough looks like. For some people, that benchmark is reasonable, flexible, human-sized. But for people caught in this pattern, the benchmark has a different origin. It was built not from what is realistic, but from what earned approval, from what kept the environment safe, from what made someone feel loved or valued or worthy of being seen. And benchmarks built from those foundations don't measure effort. They measure fear. The fear that if you stop, if you slow down, if you do less, something important will be lost. The second reason is that rest feels like a threat. This is where the pattern reveals itself most clearly. For most people, finishing a task brings relief, a natural closing. The nervous system exhales. But for someone locked in the never enough pattern, finishing doesn't bring relief. It brings exposure. Because when the doing stops, the measuring starts. And in the silence, the inadequacy feels loudest. So the solution the nervous system reaches for is more doing, more activity, more output. Not because it's needed, but because motion suppresses the feeling that stillness amplifies. Psychologists call this behavioral activation as avoidance, using productivity to escape the discomfort of sitting with yourself. Now pause here for a second. Think about the last time you genuinely rested without guilt, without the background noise of everything you should be doing instead. If that moment is hard to locate, that tells you something important. The third reason is that the voice setting the standard isn't yours. This is the quietest part, and often the most significant. The internal critic that tells you it's not enough. Where did it come from? Psychology consistently points to early environments, to the messages absorbed before you had the language to question them, to the parent whose approval felt conditional, to the teacher whose praise was rare, to the environment where love felt like something you had to earn rather than something you simply received. Those voices don't announce themselves. They don't say, "I am an internalized standard from your childhood." They just sound like truth, like your own honest assessment, like the reasonable conclusion that you simply haven't done enough yet. Research in cognitive psychology calls this introjected regulation, the process by which external standards become internal ones. The rules of the environment become the rules of the self, and you spend years following them without realizing they were never actually yours. So what does psychology suggest? Not more doing, not trying harder, not another productivity system. It suggests something quieter, something that feels counterintuitive to people caught in this pattern. It suggests asking, whose standard is this? Where did this benchmark come from? And if I applied it to someone I loved, would I think it was fair? Because the measuring system that tells you it's not enough, it has never once told you that you are. And a system that never confirms adequacy isn't measuring truth, it's measuring fear. And you were never supposed to spend your whole life trying to satisfy that.